Welcome to another jam-packed episode of Blunt Talk Sports Podcast, 32 teams in 32 days. I am your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful and sunny confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast out not only here on YouTube, but on Substack, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Patreon, Trovo, and as well as on Podbean. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Thanks. Happy to be here with you on this beautiful July 18, 2025 with another episode of 32 Teams in 32 Days. This episode will be covering the San Francisco 49ers and Dallas Cowboys. In this series, like I said, we'll be discussing what obviously went wrong for the 49ers and Cowboys last year, the additions and subtractions that both teams have made, and what the projections for this season will be. That being said, we always want to make sure we give a shout out to several friends of the show. If you're an avid gamer like myself, and definitely, as you know, there's definitely Madden season, I would implore you to definitely check out the link in the description box of this video for PlayStation Direct. Whether you're looking for, Madden, gaming system, controller, accessories, whatever it is that you need, Sony PlayStation Direct has it. Sony PlayStation, more than a game. Looking to get out this weekend, looking to take your spouse out, have a great time with some friends, then look no further than the #1 leading ticket seller and reseller in the world, StubHub. #1 seller in the world for live events, tickets, shows, and concerts, StubHub. All right, guys, so hopping into this episode, like I said, we're going to be touching on 32 teams in 32 days. First, we're going to start off with the San Francisco 49ers. What a hellacious season it was for the 49ers. Coming off a Super Bowl loss, coming into the season with a lot of hope, a lot of expectations, a lot of things looking in their favor as if they may repeat as NFC champions again. A lot of hype, did not live up to it at all. Man, a lot of that had to do with injuries, as we know, but inconsistent play was definitely one of the Achilles heels for the San Francisco 49ers last year. Now they had to make, because of this, they went 6-11, had to make a lot of change to the roster. A lot of veterans are no longer there. The Hufungas, the Greenlaws, Javon Hargreaves, guys of that nature, are no longer there on the roster. So with those veteran departures, that was essentially the theme of the offseason, but it affected the defense enough to where there's a lot of questions about the youth on the roster and the defense on the roster. But again, this had to happen because if you look at last season, the defense suffered with a ton of injury and inconsistent play. And the offense plagued this, and it plagued the offense a lot this past season because Brock Purdy making bad throws, making interceptions, putting the defense in bad situations. Then the times where Purdy and the offense would get downfield and make the plays they need to make. The defense would give up yards and touchdowns. So it was just a rat bastard situation for the 49ers. The offense essentially was able to, be fluid enough to move the ball. But Brock Purdy didn't play well, but he played well enough to where they were a competent offense. Defensively, that's where the injuries took their toll, and that's essentially where the team hemorrhaged the most, and it cost them to only win 6 games last year. All the bad stuff out of the way, the good stuff going into the offseason, they were able to lock up Brock Purdy and George Kittle to long-term extensions. But again, there's a lot of youth on this roster that these guys are going to have to help deal with. It just seems like the 49ers are at that stage where they need their veterans in place to help cultivate the young guys, to teach them the 49er way, so essentially they can have the next wave of guys coming through the door. I get it. Makes sense. The Eagles do it. The Patriots in their prime did it. The Steelers, to the best of their ability, do it. We know the Packers. There's a lot of teams that try to have that philosophy when it comes to roster building. So essentially, I get it. But there's going to be a lot of heavy lifting for the veterans and a lot of learning for a lot of rookies. That being said, we're going to get to the offensive rankings for the San Francisco 49ers last year. And again, you're talking about a team who was still, because of Kyleshanahan, the way he designs up plays and calls offense, you're still talking about a top 15 offense. They were 13th in points, which is typically down from what they've typically had. But again, Christian McCaffrey being out, another thing that helped, limit the offense. But however, they were 4th in yards, still got a lot out of the backup running backs that they had, the Jordan Masons before they traded him, and, guys of that ilk. But defensively is where this team is truly, truly struggled. the past couple years without Robert Saleh. Now you have him back. We'll see how things shape out. But as of last season, they were 29th in points, which is just fucking horrible, and 8th in yards. So the toughness and the tenacity was still there, but the discipline to stay in position was not there. You lose Charvarius Ward in the back end as well. So a lot of things changing on for this team, especially defensively. And if you go to rushing yards, keep in mind you didn't even have McCaffrey for a whole season, but with him and the backup running backs, you were 12th in the NFL in rushing yards, and that's rushing offense. Now, rushing defense, they gave up. They were 18th in defense, so not great. They definitely have to be better if they plan on competing in NFC West. You have Seattle, you have the Rams, you have the Cardinals. You have teams that could definitely move the ball on you. So being middle of the pack defensively is not really helping the 49ers in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Now, looking at their draft pick, they were able to grab Michael Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia. A lot of hype, a lot of talk about how good this guy can be. He fits the mold of the 49ers. He was projected to go in that around that slot, so I'm not really too shocked by this. I definitely think it's a guy that Robert Saleh could use and help, cultivate in their defense. Because make no mistake, the 49ers need edge rushers, they need corners, and they need an offensive line that can stay healthy. They lost Aaron Banks to the Green Bay Packers this year. They got holes. They got holes. This team is truly young, but their schedule is garbage. I mean, their schedule is pretty fucking easy when you look at it. They have a very, very, very easy schedule. So the 49ers can, stay healthy, which is something they haven't been able to do in years. If they're able to stay healthy, this team could definitely put up some numbers and definitely get into the postseason. The question, though, best case scenario, 9 to 11 wins. Looking at their schedule, and you'll see, the link for it on NFL.com, their schedule is pretty much, it's a situation where they should not have a losing record. I mean, unless they just lose Purdy and Kittle and they lose a lot of guys to injury early again, there's no reason they should not be a playoff team. I got them pegged for 9-11 wins, but again, this is barring injury because, again, they've been injured the past several years. And that's a legitimate thing that has to give you some cause for pause. So can Brock Purdy carry the offense enough, but more importantly, can the team stay healthy enough to last throughout the season for them to compete? Remains to be seen, but essentially, I do think this will be a good year for the 49ers where they can definitely make the playoffs. However, next we're going down to Texas to check on those good old, how about them Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys. Very tumultuous year last year, 7-10 for the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy, lame duck coach, wound up being fired at the end of the year. New coach, Brian however, same scheme. Will it have different results? Interesting question, because the one argument that I will argue that McCarthy didn't do was run the ball effectively enough. And it's something that, as you guys will see here when I show you on the screen, that it's pretty evident that was the case. That being said, Brian Schottenheimer and his new coach, former offensive coordinator, he's there because of the familiarity with Dak Prescott and how he runs the offense. Let's be honest, y'all. As of last year, this team was done once Dak went out. Once Dak went out with injury, it was like you just knew they didn't really have the fight in them. He had a horrific injury pulling a hamstring off the bone where he literally just got cleared in the top of June and start resuming real hard physical football activities. So him being injured every past couple years has been a thing. So it just feels like the team's a bit more prepared now by having Joe Milton there, who they acquired via trade from the Patriots. I just feel like he's definitely somebody where if he has to step in, he could definitely help the Cowboys. George Pickens. Again, obviously, getting George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers via trade was huge for Dallas. He's in a contract year. This is pretty much a make-or-break season for Pickens. If he has a great year, he's going to get paid. If he doesn't, adios, c'est la vie. George Pickens, as we know, very good young wide receiver. Mercurial, mindset or disposition definitely has been labeled a malcontent by a lot of people in the Steelers organization and the stable. So we shall see if this guy is going to step up to the levels that we expect, especially with CeedeeAmb there in the fold. But my personal opinion, I think George Pickens is going to definitely have a good year, especially trying to get paid. Now, they still have lingering offensive line questions, which I don't think you can, say or remiss, because their offensive line was pretty fucking bad. I mean, as you can see here on the screen, they had stretches and weeks where they played well, but against good defenses, great defenses even, they looked atrocious. walking dumpster fires. So yeah, that's definitely something that's still plaguing the Cowboys, and they're going to have to address as the season goes on, which leads to who they drafted in the draft from this past year. This past draft, they drafted Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama, big physical mauler, kind of in the role or mold of a Tyron Smith. So I get it completely. Now, looking at their offensive line, looking at that offensive line, the offensive rankings, period. The Cowboys were ranked 21st in points, which is not good, and 17th in yards. Now, they were 11th in passing yards. Credit a lot of that early to Dak. Late in the year, that was, garbage time stats, so that be that as it may. Defensive ranking, they were 31st in points. They were atrocious. The shittiest defense in the NFC East, I think, hands down. And the Giants were definitely giving them stiff competition with that. But 31 points, 31st in points, and 28th in yards on defense for the Dallas Cowboys, and 17th in passing yards. So definitely something that the Cowboys need to address. Their defense has to be better if they're going to have any chance of competing in the NFC East. Rushing yards, which I also think was a microcosm of the Mike McCarthy issue and problem during his coaching tenure. He just gets away too much from running the football. Rushing yards for the offense. The Dallas Cowboys were 27th in rush yards. Not acceptable in any way, stretch of the imagination. Even bringing in a fucking broken down Ezekiel Elliott wasn't going to help move that needle much. And in rushing yards defensively, the team was 29th in yards, so they gave up a lot of rushing yards. And we witnessed that playing the Ravens, playing the Eagles, playing the Commanders. They're going to get gashed. So this defense definitely needs to take a step up. They had injuries too, Trayvon Diggs, just again, a lot of things just not going their way. Overshawn being out for the year with a torn ACL, just, again, rough things for that defense, rough things for that team. But I do feel like, barring injury, this team could definitely be a fringe playoff team, if not a playoff team. But the lingering questions will remain. Can Dak Prescott stay healthy? Has not remained healthy the past 2 of the last 3 or 4 seasons, so definitely something to keep an eye on. Can George Pickens have the breakout season he and the Cowboys are expecting him to have? Because make no mistake, if George Pickens has the year he's expected to have, I not only think he'll be a Cowboy, but he'll get the money that he's looking forward to. Maybe it's T. Higgins money, I don't know. But he's definitely can command that respect if he could play to that high of a level. And last but not least, can the running game finally grow in this offense to help make this Cowboys offense lethal? They haven't really had a running game last year. They had Rico Dowdle. He ran for over 1,000 yards. Some of that kind of was, hard fought yardage where they just kept running the ball to plug away, kill clock, try to get in position. Whatever it may be, their running game it didn't really grow to the heights and depths that they thought. So they got Miles Sanders. They grabbed Javonte Williams. They grabbed a bunch of guys this year in free agency to try to beef up that running back room, which has been lacking size, agility, and strength for some years now. So you got to give the Cowboys that much credit, and they know for a fact with some of the additions that they've made, re-signing Kevontae Turpin, who's facing legal issues currently at this time, getting Solomon Thomas, getting a lot of reclamation projects that they seem to resuscitate. That would seem to be the move, especially why they go after Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. But remains to be seen, but definitely a lot of things have to fall in place for the Cowboys, but it'll be an interesting season for them nonetheless. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Take care, and may you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hey to all my fans and subscribers out in the UK. Looking to get out this weekend, looking to make something of your week, then look no further than the Viagogo, the #2 leading ticket seller in the world for live events, shows, and concerts. Definitely check it out. If you're looking for exclusive tickets, look in the description of my videos on the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. Take care and enjoy your day.